Welcome back to the show Ira and I did not want to be doing on this Wednesday. I actually, in two ways, because I think we're gonna do off-season grades, and we're gonna do in-season grades, and we're gonna do that next week instead. I kind of wanted to save the off-season discussion, but Ira, I do think that when you're talking about how this playoff run went and then ultimately how it ended, you can't put that in a proper perspective without also saying, okay, how close are we? And I think in some ways you have to say, okay, yeah, you were one shot away, right? I mean, let's just say in Game 7, you were one shot away.
They were.
But Philly is going to be healthier next year. Joel Embiid is going to – and the Heat should be healthier, you would hope. But you've got an older group. And this gets into the last question here in the chat.
You know what? Okay, but Clay, for a second, you don't have an older group because you have two groups. And you have a younger group. And I can give you a younger group that I could throw out on the floor with Omer Yurtseven, who's going to just like you're telling me Philly's going to be better and Milwaukee and Boston to be better. I'm telling you that I have Bam Adebayo, who darn well better be better, and I believe he has the work ethic too. So, but I'm going to move him to power forward. I have Omer Yurtseven, who for 6 weeks was a legitimate NBA stat stuffer. I think you'd agree with that, correct?
Yeah. Wait, okay. I want to see where you're going with this, though.
You have Max Strus.
Are you starting Yurt?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I can give you the Heat youth lineup of a very competitive team. So when we spoke at the top of the show to Big O about the crosstalk and the Heat getting young and whether they have something else in the tank, this is a different composition. I can give you a Heat 5-man youth squad if you keep the roster intact of Bam, of Omer at center, Bam at power forward, Strus at the 3, Tyler Hero at the 2, and Gabe Vincent at the 1, all either experience-wise 3 years or fewer, a young group. So it's not like this whole old team. Yes, I know where you're going. You're going with PJ Tucker will be 38, Kyle Lowry will be 37, Jimmy Butler will be 34, and I get that. And you have to guard those minutes. But I don't think in a transition the Heat ever have been in the position transition-wise where they also had so much youth to sort of rally on and rely on. And that's a big difference, Clay, that this time the Heat can also say, you know what, we're going to keep it intact because the farm system is loaded. And Clay, this isn't the crap that the Marlins give us all the time. The Marlins, Baseball America says we have the second best AA team. The young guys are coming. Yeah, until we trade them or they price themselves out of our market.
By the way, how are Marlins fans surprised by how this season is going? Like, there are Marlins fans who are legitimately, shocked and surprised. You didn't get better. Right. You got worse.
Yes.
Why are you surprised the white record is worse? All right.
Right. But I'm just saying the Heat have so when this whole Heat older team, I'm telling you that if this was Baseball America ranking the Heat youth core, the Heat would have one of the most promising youth cores, even against a team like Oklahoma City with 95,000 first-round picks in the last 5 years and in the next 5 years. Yeah, I'm still not so sure that I'm not taking Max Strus over Lou Dort or something like that. So I feel comfortable where the Heat are. So I think we need to tone back a little bit this Heat as an old team because I can tell you, matter of fact, I would put it this way. I think the Heat youth lineup I just gave you of Omer Yurtseven and Bam Adebayo and Max Strus and Tyler Hero and Gabe Vincent competes even up right now, bring it on, with the New York Knicks starting lineup. So they have a team that's competitive that way anyway. So this old talk, I think, especially as an old person, I think we have to sort of step back a little because just like me, I might not be hitting the tennis balls too well today, but Jake Winderman will take care of the hard serves and doubles, and we'll be fine. Anyway, continue, Mr. Ferraro.
No. Look, here's the distinction I'm making when I say old team. I'm talking about the guys who need to be your best players. And I'm not even really talking about PJ Tucker. Your best player is Jimmy Butler. And I think he proved in these playoffs he is a superstar even on one knee. And yet, at the same time, he needed help largely because that knee was consistently an issue. And he had to miss games. He had to miss a half of an Eastern Conference Finals game. And in the next 2 games, he wasn't nearly himself. And they're going to say no excuses, no excuses, no excuses. It's an excuse. And unfortunately, Father Time is undefeated. I'm not sitting here saying that next year in the playoffs, he's going to be hurt again. But you don't get healthier as you get older and you're rolling the dice. Kyle Lowry, let's just hit it right now, okay? The fact that, look, I understand that he knows his body better than anybody else. He clearly had a very difficult year personally. I mean, when you have a guy who was as maniacal a competitor as he is, having to miss games because of something going on in your personal life, man, just stop questioning it. Like, clearly there's something there, okay? So,
Right.
and we don't have to know it. However, now, full stop. When you're that age and you get to the playoffs and you get hurt and you say, I've never had a soft tissue injury before, Father Time is undefeated. So if that's what you're relying on, that's where I have a little bit of trouble, Ira. And to me, it's okay. What are you going to do to make sure that the guy who you were relying on to be your third best player? I mean, at worst, your third best player,
Sure.
and maybe your second most important player in the playoffs, when he's going to be what, 38 next year, 37, 38?
37. He's 36 now. He'll
37
turn
next year.
37 by the end of next season. Correct.
So he's going to be 37 by the end of next season. How can you say that he's going to? So to me, it's Jimmy Butler needs help. If Kyle Lowry, you can't necessarily count on to be that help, then you have to go find it somewhere. And yes, Bam, I fully expect Bam to take a lead. But this is something that Bobby Marks tweeted the other night. Per second spectrum tracking, opponents blew by Kyle Lowry on 43.8% of their drives this season. That's the highest of his career since they started tracking in 2014. Ira, that's bad. And that's not just a one hamstring injury in the postseason. That's all season long. And with a team that's built on defense, and obviously you're thankful that you had Bam Adebayo to come over and clean up a lot of that. Man, we talk so much about Tyler Hero's defense, and I do think it's a problem. And I'm really curious to see the NBA Finals and see if Boston attacks Steph Curry like I think they probably would have attacked Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. We got to talk about the Kyle Lowry situation. And you're right. I don't think you can move him. But what you can do is, if you're going to try to maximize this Jimmy Butler window, find him help somewhere else to mitigate whatever may happen with Kyle Lowry as the season wears on.
2 points there. Number one, PJ Tucker is 37 going on 30. I don't think at any point this season I said that guy is playing an old man's game. That guy was everywhere.
Yeah.
Kyle Lowry, the problem is 36 going on 40, and you can't have that. And Pat Riley has always stressed, as you get older, you have to do more. You have to be in the shape of your life. Even if I've got to give Tim Hardaway $100,000 a weigh-in to keep his body fat at 8% or less every 2 weeks, I will do that to motivate him similarly late in his career. Yes, Kyle Lowry has thrived with that body type so far, but he's never been a 36-year-old NBA player until now. So I agree something has to change. The one question I could not get answered all year was this. Did Kyle Lowry ever pass the Heat's conditioning test at the start of the season? Did Kyle Lowry meet his 8% body fat by the end of the season? That has to change. There has to be a commitment there. But there's one other point, Clay, something you raised there in your soliloquy, so I'll raise it in mine, is that Kyle Lowry has to be at least the Heat's third best player. Maybe not. Maybe it's okay. Forget the salary, folks. Let's not confuse money with performance and need. He could be the fourth best player. One, if Tyler Hero continues his growth, maybe, as he said yesterday in his media session, wants to be a starter, your hierarchy might turn into, remember, Tyler Hero was the Heat's second highest scorer this season after Jimmy Butler. So if your hierarchy becomes Jimmy and Bam and Tyler, then Kyle falls to 4, maybe that's acceptable where his game is right now. Or, as we mentioned in the previous segment, go listen to the podcast of our Slomin's Home Security Inside the Paint Show, segment 1, June 1. You could also make an argument if they make that trade, the Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero first-round pick trade, then Kyle Lowry also slides to number 4, because into number 3 is Bradley Beal, is Donovan Mitchell, is Damian Lillard, hell, maybe is Malcolm Brogdon or someone like that if you can't get everything you want. So that changes the dynamic. So I think what happens now at 601 Biscayne Boulevard is Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, Andy Ellisberg, Adam Simon, Nick Harrison, the rest of the front office have to honestly say to themselves, look, we gave the guy $85 million last summer. We can't chase lost money. Can Kyle Lowry be a number 3 right now? Or do we have to be honest with ourselves and he's a number 4? And if he is, who's our number 3? Is there growth in Tyler Hero as a starter? Is there another player we can package to bring in there? I think that he'd have to be candid. What you can't say to yourself is, this guy has more than $50 million left on his contract. He has to be our number 3. You have to look at
Yeah.
the body of work, and you have to look at the body.
No, and I think we're saying the same thing in different ways. Maybe I didn't put this properly. I don't believe that he can. I think they got
Okay.
him to be that this year, and his body fell apart. His body failed him for whatever reason. And again, look, this is not at all dismissing the personal stuff. I'm sure that played into it a lot.
And
And
no
yet,
training when you're up and tending to a relative and
sure.
maybe making hospital visits and things like that. We all get that.
And yet, Father Time is undefeated. So when you look into next year, and look, trading Kyle Lowry is not an option. Look, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't think Jimmy Butler would sign off on it.
Correct.
Number two, and more importantly, nobody would want him. You're already gonna not at that price point. Okay, I mean, you can unload any contract, but if you're already looking to use a sweetener potentially to move Duncan Robinson's contract, if you're going to bring in somebody who's a better player, you can't keep sweetening stuff because he got nothing left to sweeten to get an actually really good player in.
And like Bobby Marks told me last week, Kyle Lowry's assigned value in his view is the mid-level exception of $10.6 million. You know, play when they do the NFL draft and they have that chart of you trade draft choices, they all have a certain value. So one first rounder equals a third and a fourth because that's 90 total points in the system. It's the same thing with a player. That if a player, every team evaluates a player. Yes. And they say, Kyle Lowry, we don't give a rat's butt what his salary is. We evaluate him as a $10 million player. Wait, he's making $30 million? Well, then we need two sweeteners to make that work, to offset our salary loss. So I think that's hard. And Clay, you make a good point. If people forget, Kyle Lowry's the godfather to Jimmy Butler's daughter. They're a package deal. The only reason, well, maybe besides the salary, that Kyle Lowry is here and not back home in Philadelphia or out with LeBron and with the Lakers is that the connection with Jimmy Butler. They're a package deal. If Jimmy's here, Kyle's here. If Kyle's here, Jimmy's here. And people, you just move forward from that. So I disagree with you also on the father time is undefeated. LeBron James's father time is not undefeated. And we've seen.
Are we sure about that? Are we sure about that?
Yeah. Statistically, he had a great year. I know he got injured a little, but what I'm saying is you're talking about a drop off from here. People, you got to watch the podcast and not listen. You got to watch on YouTube instead of the podcast to down here. I think it could just be incremental. I think it could be so incremental that if another player improves that same increment, you can offset it. I don't think Kyle Lowry has to go from former all-star to who is this guy? He did what in his career? I don't think it has to be that bad. And Eric Spoelstra subtly, and you heard this yesterday, Clay, when you were listening, when he goes, Kyle Lowry's going to come in the best condition of his career. Yeah, that was a message. That was like smiling emojis, from Pat Riley to LeBron James. That was being loud and clear. He said it this way. And Kyle Lowry, we know you're going to come into the best, shape of your career. But what he meant is, Kyle Lowry, you will come in the best shape of your career. Or else, just like Pat Riley sent Antoine Walker and James Posey downstairs when they came back after that 2006 championship, I think subtly the Heat will do the same with Kyle.
So just to clarify and make sure we're on the same page here, and because I'm looking at this from the perspective of Kyle Lowry is going to be on this roster. So how do you build the roster with him on it? Do you view him? And so this is the other issue that I would have, and this is what I want to talk about after the break. And I think the finals are going to give us a really good indication of this. If Kyle Lowry and Tyler Hero are your starting backcourt, all of a sudden with how Kyle Lowry's defense has fallen off a cliff, can you play like that? Can you play with a defensive backcourt that may be one of the worst in the NBA on a team that prides itself on its defense? And so again, we're up against the break. So Ira's smiling, so he's going to yell at me. Let's get to the break. Let's come back, and then Ira can yell at me about what a ridiculous take that is. That's next year on Inside the Paint.
You're wrong.